Hey, author, want to get your latest title published as an audiobook on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes? You can do it. Just reach out to podcastandradio.com.
Welcome to Literary Latte. I'm Linda Bouchard, and it's time for another jolt of inspiration. Today's episode is all about having the courage to start over, tearing up the blueprint and designing a new future for yourselves in your writing life and in your life as a whole, and how to do it with your sense of humor intact. Beginning again is always scary. It's full of the unknowns, but that's what also makes it exciting, energizing, creative, and worthwhile. When you are forced to start over, whether it's in your manuscript or because of a major life event, you are given a choice and a chance to rewrite the story of your life. Intuition plays a big part in it all, and I think of intuition as a tuning fork that keeps me in harmony with my goals. You just have to listen to it, and my guest today will tell us how he did that. He is an inspiring example. Joining me from Los Angeles today is one of the most talented people I know. As a pioneering writer and gifted comic actor, Terry Sweeney was a cast member on Saturday Night Live and became famous for his classic impression of Nancy Reagan. In doing so, he made history as the first openly gay performer on American television. Shortly afterward, Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David hired him to tussle over a tennis racket with Elaine on an iconic episode of Seinfeld. Terry has written for Mad Television, and he co-wrote the screenplay for the cult Southern film Shag. Most recently, he starred in his first dramatic role in the FX true crime series, The Assassination of Gianni Versace. In this episode, Terry Sweeney will take us behind the curtain at SNL, sharing how he got his foot in the door there. We'll talk about his comic memoir titled Irritable Bowels and the People Who Give You Them, and the way starting over can be the catalyst to something great. Terry, welcome in, my friend.
Thank you, Linda. Can you go everywhere I go, right in front of me, and announce that in the supermarket, anything I have?
Oh.
Anyway, the dry cleaners, movie, restaurants, I'll get the best table right after you give that.
Hey, listen, when can I start? Well, Terry, I want to begin with your book. And Pat Conroy, the beloved Pat Conroy, wrote the introduction to it. And he says, and I quote, "Stand-up comedy reigns supreme as the most dangerous high-wire act in the acting profession. Terry Sweeney is the funniest man I ever met. It's his savage eye that is my favorite thing about him. This book is a work of comic art worthy of Woody Allen and Mark Twain." Wow, that's pretty high praise.
Well, it certainly is. Wow, I was very happy to get such a recommendation from him. And what do you say to that except thank you, Pat Conroy? And I'm thrilled that someone of his caliber recognized me and took the time to write that and actually felt that he saw some talent there that was worth praising.
Well, I know. I mean, what an honor for you. But your book is so well written, and I can hear your voice on every page. I laughed so hard, I was in tears.
I try to keep it conversational. Yeah, like I'm just in a room telling you stories over a dinner party with a glass of wine, and we're like, blah, blah, blah. Here's what happened.
Well, that's what That's exactly how it comes across. And to me, you have that rare combination, Terry, of a novelist's eye and the wordsmith's turn of phrase, plus your comic sense of timing. It's kind of the trifecta.
Oh,
where, where does that come from? I mean, where does that sense of?
well, my father was very funny. I'm the child of an Irish Catholic butcher, and I always say Sicilian fishwife. My mother, Lenore, and my mother didn't know she was funny, and my father knew how funny she was, and he would really. He'd come home and tell us stories from the butcher shop that were funny. People would go into where he worked, and they would say, they'd order some meat, and then he'd weigh it, and they'd be like, "Oh, Mr. Sweeney, it seems a lot." He goes, "Well, let me weigh it again with my thumb off the scale." So he would just act like they're acting like he's a crook, so he would just go along with it. But he was very, very funny man. So, it's a volatile combination, Irish and Sicilian, and certainly a lot of comics are Irish, and that's probably the root of it there. And I grew up, all my friends were Jewish, so that was the other thing. Like growing up, they called my neighborhood Mazda Pizza Park, so you were either Italian or Jewish from Massapequa Park. So I actually I ended up absorbing by osmosis the Jewish sense of humor too. So Irish and Jewish, that's every stand-up comic practically, except for black that you'll see now practically.
Right, right. And one of my absolutely favorite chapters is The Crepes of Wrath. So talk about that time in your life and how it kind of launched you forward.
Well, I think everybody, after they get out of college, this is my first job right out of college, was in the Magic Pan. It was a creperie in Boston. I'd gone to school in Vermont and la-di-dying around like everyone does in college, and you get big fat degree, and then you go, well, now what do I do? I mean, I was not prepared to do anything. I was not going to go to graduate school. And so I ended up working in this restaurant, this creperie, and I went for a job as a waiter, and they said, oh, I don't know. This manager with whiskey on his breath said, it's a lot. I'm not sure you're ready for it. And I was thinking, don't I just take orders and pour water in glasses and deliver them? So he didn't think I was ready, despite my, magna cum laude degree from Middlebury. So I ended up working there, and it was an odd little place because it had a crepe maker in the middle, and this little Mexican woman would turn the pans all around upside down and make these crepes, and no one spoke Spanish except me. I spoke English and Spanish, of course, to her, and people would ask her all questions like, how many years ago was the crepe invented, and who invented this machine, and at what point? And all she knew was, I go home now, and sorry, I'm late. The bus late. That's all she ever said in English to anybody. And there would be like dozens of people questioning her. And it was just, and then finally they figured out that I could speak English, the host not far away. And then they started gathering around me, asking questions about this crepe maker. And like it was the seventh wonder of the world. I was like, oh, God, it's just a crepe maker, folks. I just tell them, I said, it was called the Incorporator. I said, during the Inquisition, it was used to torture people and get information out of them. And I would just say terrible things. I would just make up stuff. I didn't care because I thought, let's make this interesting. It's dull, 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 people. So.
Oh my gosh. That chapter is just, oh my gosh. It's brilliant.
But everybody's had that job, that first job where you're just got, are you sure you can sweep out this office? Any little menial task, and you go like, I have a college degree. I beg your pardon.
I know it's so demeaning. And I mean, but you take anything you can get at the time. And I lived in Boston and I loved the Magic Pan. I mean, it was such a hub of activity. And oh my gosh, I would have loved to have you as.
Oh, it was great. Yeah, I was the funniest waiter, and I'd be like, yeah, I hope I get people. The funniest waiter I ever had. And I thought, well, wow, okay, I've reached one pinnacle of my career. Now what am I going to do? So it inspired me also because it moves on. Like, okay, I don't want to do this the rest of my life. And you want sour cream or you want whipped cream with the strawberry crepe. Eventually I did get to wait on tables, and it was, I loved the money, but instant money, but I was like, I got to give something more than this. So.
Okay, so let's talk about that. And you said that, people found you funny and so forth. Did you know that you wanted to go into acting or to, write scripts? When did that all
I found out later because I was the star of my talent show in high school, wrote stuff and was a big star. But once I got to college, they were doing absurdist things like Waiting for Godot and blah, blah, blah. It was very intellectual. Whoever was head of the drama department at that time really wanted very serious things. And I was like, I don't think this is exactly right for me. So I didn't do it. I actually worked with, I work with did all kinds of volunteer work in my spare time. I worked with people who had Down syndrome or slow. A whole campus. There was a whole campus of people that I would go and volunteer and work there during my spare time, and I loved all the kids there and the adults who were very. That's when I found out someone can be slow, but not slow inside. Still have wit. And still have warmth and a lot of love, and it was great. So I did that rather than go out for plays in my spare time.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. So when did it all come together for you? When did you get to talk about how you got to New York, and bring us into that world at SNL, where you made that leap? And that great leap of faith, which you talk about in your book.
Yeah, I think what happened was I certainly after I transferred from the Magic Pan. This is how a sad part of the story. I transferred to the Magic Pan to the Magic Pan in New York. I mean, that's how scared I was to go try anything. But after working in New York for a bit. One day, a friend of mine who worked there also said, I'm going to apply to Saturday Night Live. And I go, what? He goes, yeah, they're hiring writers. And I said, well, maybe I should apply. And he said, it's too late. It's the last day. And off he went. And I was like, the last day? I should be doing this. So in my mind, I had been thinking about all kinds of funny stuff all along for years, sketches. This could be funny. Oh, this would be funny, but only to entertain myself. And I went home and I locked the door of my apartment and locked myself in, made the biggest pot of coffee, and I just wrote sketch after sketch after sketch after sketch. And I stayed up till, around midnight writing. I called my friend. I go, I didn't even type. I said, can you type these up for me? And she goes, oh, honey, I'm leaving on a trip tomorrow night. I went, please. If you've had tons of coffee, like 16 cups, you can cry at the drop of a hat. She went, okay. So she typed them up. And the next day, I went over to 30 Rock, and I went downstairs, and I came in the lobby. I was just like, oh, boy. And then I saw there were very big, tough African-American security guards who were checking everyone's ID and giving everyone kind of the stink eye, like, yeah, all right, like barely believing even a picture of them on their license, So I thought, oh, my God, I've done this all for nothing. I'll never get past. I looked at myself in a mirror that was nearby. I went, I'm unshaven. I just look like I pulled clothes off the floor. I look like a lunatic, just the kind of person they're there to keep out. So while I was looking in that mirror, I realized, there's a coffee shop here. That's what I'm looking at, actually. And I went into the deli coffee shop down there, and I got 6 turkey sandwiches, Russian dressing, potato salad, coleslaw, and about 6 giant Cokes, and with the little white bags, and out I went, and I tucked my sketches under my arm, and I went up to the kind of the biggest, blackest, scariest guard, and I said, "Lunch for Saturday Night Live," and I just pushed the whole 3 bags full of stuff at him, and he goes, "What? I'm not doing your job. Get up there and do it yourself." And so he told me so. He waved me through, and I'm downstairs. I pushed the button on an elevator, and I was like, "Oh my!" And they're saying like, "Where's Luis? Luis, the usual guy." I said, Luis won the lottery. He's and they were just couldn't get over that, and they're going, "Damn, Luis, I'm gonna buy me a ticket." They were just going on about Luis winning the lottery. I'm going, "Please don't show up, Luis. Please do not. I will be dragged off to the police." And I got up and got past another guard. Just said lunch for Saturday Night Live. I just kept sailing through, and there was a very bitchy receptionist at the time, and she was just held up one finger with the long, scary red nail on it, like, "Hold on a second." And then it was a miracle. Her phone bank lit up, and then she just waved me in like, "I'm too busy for this. Bring the lunch in." And I brought lunch. I passed all these offices and went to the executive office in the corner, and there was the executive producer, and I said, "Lunch for Saturday Night Live." And at that time, it was Jean Doumanian was the producer. And she goes, "Oh, honey, I didn't order any lunch." I said, "I know. I just want to write on your show. This is my sketches, and would you please, just take a look at them, give me a chance, just read them." And then I said, "And lunch is on me." And I just ran as fast as I could down out the front doors, 30 Rock, and down the block. And a week later, I get a call, and this woman's voice is this Terry Sweeney? I go, "Yes." She goes, "Did you write all those sketches yourself?" I go, "Uh-huh." She goes, "What do you do?" I said, "Well, I'm a waiter." And she says, "Oh, well, not anymore. Starting tomorrow, you're a writer at Saturday Night Live." So I had no agent, no manager, no one. Knew no one, did not have like, "Oh, my cousin Shirley to get." So I think that's a lesson in just having chutzpah and being daring and able to go a different way. Try to improvise and don't think just because you don't have all the necessary connections and all the protocol, doesn't matter. If you have the talent and you believe in yourself, which as much as I could back then, you just do it. I mean, there's just bravado counts for a lot.
Oh, I just love that so much because you're right. It is a great example for everybody. There's so many different ways to, get in front of people. And if you want it badly enough, you will find a way.
Right.
So,
and I think even with my book, I self-published my book, Irritable Bowels, and the people give you them. And I didn't, people said, "Oh my God, you know how much it costs to do a book, blah, blah, blah." So I found somebody who did the graphics for the newspaper in my town. At this time, I was living in Beaufort, South Carolina, and I liked what she did. I thought, she's talented, and that was her first book cover. I worked with her, and people said, "You're going to have to pay $5,000 to get a book cover." Well, I paid her $100, and she said, "Is that too much?" And I said, "No, sweetie," and never ask that question because obviously you're just starting out in the business. Never say, "Is it too much?" And also, I raised money to follow through on the whole thing. I raised $10,000 in my small town just by calling up people and saying, "I'm writing a book, and it's really funny," and blah blah. And people wanted to be patrons of the book, and and that got the whole book going. And it's still on Amazon, and it's doing absolutely fantastic. So nothing needs to stop you. You just kind of go, okay, it's water around the rocks. Just keep flowing. Keep going where you're going. So,
wonderful analogy. Right. Wonderful visual. Absolutely. And your resilience and the way you embrace life with that resilience and humor is such an inspiration because you've had a lot of rejections, and being the first openly gay performer on television was
Oh, God, I
was
can't tell you what a big money maker that was. Ha, 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 no. Not at all. After that, I didn't work for a while, except for Seinfeld was the first job. It's like that was, it was, people would just say, I'm going another way. I'd get an audition, I'd do a great job, and oh, we're going another way. It's like, which means straight. And even for gay parts, even for, it was very, very frustrating. And so that's when I turned to writing rather than just doing my acting.
Okay.
And I wrote the movie Shag with my hubby, Lanier Laney. Mm-hmm. And so I turned to writing, and then I ended up writing and producing Mad TV for 5 years. But that was just to survive. I couldn't do my first love because I was gay, and I was great to do that. I mean, I couldn't at the time. I knew that it was certainly could be detrimental to my career. But when this is 1985, and when I was hired, and when they before I signed the contract, I said, you have to know something. I'm going to be openly gay. I'm not going to hide it. I'm not going to do these things like, I haven't met the right girl. Yeah. Well, the right girl would have to have a penis, and I don't think you're going to put that in TV Guide. So it was kind of like, I don't think that's going to work for me to pretend. And I couldn't, because I had already been to memorials at this time. AIDS had taken hold in the gay community, and I'd already been to like 15 memorials of people dying who were 25, who were, 22, 30, it was tragic, and nobody really knew what was going on or happening except gay people that were losing their friends. So I just felt, how could I go around and pretend I'm straight? How could I do that and promote that kind of shame and homophobia myself? I couldn't do it. I said, this is a job, is what I thought. Later on, after a job, you have to live with yourself. You come home to yourself. And so I did the right thing, although it may have it definitely adversely affected my career. But so I made a career a different way. I think you have to be resilient. As you're saying, I love that word, resilient. You bounce back, you go like, okay, that didn't work. I'm going to try over here. I mean, it's like, I'm going to do this, because we're all capable of doing so many different things, have so many different talents. So you just can't let anything defeat you, no matter how ominous it looks or big. You can get around it.
Great advice. Great advice. And, several weeks ago, Terry, you and I were talking, and we were talking about how we both had to shift gears in life and change careers, and as you were just referring to, go in a different direction, whether by choice or not. And I know so many people who are just paralyzed by fear of change, and they stay in these crappy jobs because they want the insurance or the retirement plan, and they're miserable. And, it's just not worth it. They lose out because they're afraid of the unknown, but it can really be a catalyst for greater things, as we both know.
I mean, the hell that you know is worse than the hell you don't know, as far as I'm concerned. It's like there's a chance even that you could be happier. I just feel like people lose, you're so right, people lose perspective on that it's their life. It's not, did you incarnate, I always think, did you incarnate on this planet? If you have this one incarnation, you might have more. But if you have this one incarnation, did you come here to get, in this planet, in this body, to get health insurance, to work in a cubicle, to go and drive from place to place selling stuff you don't really like, to be in an office where your stomach's in knots, where, that's my irritable bowels, it's like, it's people that give them to you, not necessarily what you're eating. It's all the aggravation and either the upset or humiliation. If you're dealing with that at work, I always say, don't stay where you're tolerated, go where you're celebrated, and if you're just being tolerated and put down where you're working or not appreciated, what is that doing? It's your life. So take it back, just say like, okay, I don't really care. I'm going to try something new. It could be, and you can make it work. Maybe you have to downsize. Maybe you have to eat, less of this, or eat out less, or but it's worth it. Maybe you have to go back to school, get another loan, or whatever. I think it's worth it. When I was leaving Hollywood, one of the reasons I left Hollywood is that at the time I was like 50 or something. Anyway, I saw a breakdown, and it said Terry Sweeney type they were looking for. And breakdowns, in case people don't know that are listening, are just these little things they send out. They're paragraphs that describe the character they're looking for a part. And so I read this, and my friends got all excited. Go, Terry, did you read that? I go, yes, they're looking for a Terry Sweeney type. And I called up, and I was like, yes, well, hey, hello, it's Terry Sweeney himself. You were looking for me. And the gal who answered was like, wait a minute. Okay, hold on. And I'm like, I heard blah, blah, blah. And then her boss gets on and goes, oh, hi, Terry. I go, hi, Tony, you're looking for a Terry Sweeney type. Well, what do you know? I'm here and I'm available. He said, yeah, Terry, we're looking for a Terry Sweeney type. I said, yeah, but I'm Terry Sweeney. He goes, yeah, we're kind of looking for a younger version of you. I'm like, oh, but I still look good. You know how they say black don't crack? Well, beige don't age. I said, I look great. He goes, yeah, that's funny. Beige don't age. Ha. I'm a big fan. Well, good luck, and hung up on me. I was like, oh, my God. And I thought, I'm not going to, you could probably hear me scream over at Machu Picchu. But I threw that phone across the room. But I thought, I'm not putting up with that. That's too, you can't listen to stuff like that. You can't hear, you're too old, you're too this, you're too that. Now, years later, I've come back to Hollywood, and I have gotten an agent, a manager, all this stuff. But I end up getting a part in, the first time I audition for anything, I get a part in Versace, which is the most sought-after part, thing at this time. And in FX, working with Ryan Murphy. Right. And I'm playing somebody. I'm supposed to play a 70-something-year-old. I'm like, oh. And then my agent told me, you're a new face again. You've been gone long enough. And I'm like, the things that they tell you when at Hollywood. Oh, so my old face is new now. Thank you.
But isn't that great, Terry? That every no leads to a yes. It's like recalibrating the way you look at things. And that no that you got led to that great part, that great dramatic role. The first one I think you ever did in Versace.
Yeah. It was the first one I drag role. So, and now I'm looking at roles. I have agents, I have managers. Assistant, he's looking for stuff. He sends me stuff, and it's very funny because they'll have. He's the first part he sent me out for. He was, considering for me. It said elderly man, and I thought, oh, elderly man, I'm going to go down there and kick his butt. First, I'll give him elderly man, that damn millennial, and then I go and look at it. Said, oh, 55 or over, and I thought, are you telling me 55 is elderly in Hollywoodese? So now I'm dealing, instead of homophobia, I'm dealing with ageism, and which women have had to deal with, forever in Hollywood, and after a certain age, you're at an age range, and I look so good I can't play a grandfather. I'd have to age myself up. So I'm in this, I thought, I can wait 10 years and have another comeback.
Oh, my. Wow.
But in the meantime, I'm doing other things. I'm starting on another book. I still audition.
Great.
I'm coming up. Someone wanted to write a pilot for me, this young writer, and I said, okay, let's do it. So I'm working with these, actually these two women who are writing a pilot for me, and so we'll see what happens. So it just is. You just keep going, but the reinvention goes on and on, I think, forever.
I agree. It never stops, or at least it shouldn't ever stop. And like you're doing, you have to take ownership of your craft. You just can't leave it to serendipity that much. But,
No, you really have to see, well, I'm going to pursue this. I'll try it. So now this is another version of me, Here's the 2018 version. And I think everybody should have their cars get to be, unveiled every year. I think people could too, whether it's a new haircut, a new place, you move, you change your color scheme, you do whatever you have to do. I think what happens is that people just stay stuck in the same place. And then, well, what about this and what about that? I guess some people are waiting until they move close to the grandchildren, or they're going to,
it's very limiting. Very limiting.
Yeah, it's very limiting. It's very limiting. And I think the best example you can be for your kids, if you have kids or grandkids, is that you're somebody who really has a great, exciting life, and is 70 and is 80 and is now doing this and that. It's like they go to Vegas every 2 months, or go on vacations, or go to Europe. It's like go do something. Go to Paris. You can go to Paris at 75. You don't have to. It's like this thing that it's, especially now, I think we're going to change too eventually. Like I took care of Leonard, and I took care of his mom when she had a stroke, and ultimately she had to be in assisted living at some point, and it's not pretty. I think that has to change on that end. The system, the way it's done, how it looks. I don't know. There's so many things you can do. You can volunteer somewhere and meet. I always say volunteer, get involved with something, because that's the best way to get to know a new group of people with a similar interest, and have friends and make it. Who knows?
Right. And you never know what it will lead to. I mean, you meet all sorts of people when you volunteer. So it can open up doors for you. I agree with you, Terry. And it's just about taking chances and putting yourself out there. So tell us what you're working on now. And you mentioned writing another book. What is that about?
My book is about, I think, the challenges of being older in a funny way. I think it's about sort of being a perennial, which just means, you thought I was dead, but I came back again. And so that's kind of my new phrase I use for people my age.
I love that. That's great.
So I know everything's like, okay, old man, or sir, but like I'm nobody's grandpa, I'm nobody's, I'm just, it's refining your own power, but also coming up with the kind of challenges, taking on the challenges that everyone takes after 60. After 60, you decide, well, I can't do this anymore, but I'll do this, or this doesn't look good. Hey, if I get drunk at a cocktail party after 60, boy, that doesn't look very classy. It might have when you were 26. You can go to party. We were so high. Actually, after 60, not so. It's kind of moves into tacky. Sad. So, I am trying to take on what it's like to be after 60. What is our world? What's the world we have now? What are we left with? What are we doing? It's like, and if you have children, grandchildren, or you don't, or you're on your third marriage, or you're divorced, or whatever's going on, what's going on for people that are over 60? I think it's a really a rich topic.
Oh, I think it's going to, we're the boomers are the, biggest demographic. So I know that will be huge with readers. And so is that going to be traditionally published?
Yes, this time I'm going to get a publisher. So this time I'm going, because I have my first book now as a sample of my writing, really, and see what I can do. So I definitely would go for a publisher this time. And I think you're right. This is that's a big group of reading public who actually read books.
I know.
I found one segment of the population.
See, timing is everything.
It is.
Terry, and they read real books, like I'm an ink sniffer. I love to smell the pages.
I love reading a book. I love touching it. I look at the jacket. I read the thing. I read what they've written before. I love reading a book. And I grew up going to the bookmobile That was my thing. And the woman, lady of the bookmobile who used to come around, just love me. I would leave with a pile of books. I was such a book nerd, and come back the next week having read all of them. And the world of books, I just love it. And yeah, I can read something in Kindle, and I can read something in there, and it's fine if you're not at home but it's not the same to me as having a book.
It's not. It's not. And, because I think reading is a tactile as well as an intellectual experience. And the real book, there's nothing like it.
It's so funny. And even in music, all these really hip people going like, I'm putting on an LP and I'm going to, the vinyl. I mean, now it's like become hip to kind of, you can get this thing called the stereo and it drops the record and then you put the needle. You have to change the needle. So I'm like, what? This is like, of course, and then they're saying that music has a different vibration to it from the vinyl. There are people studying it, scientists studying it, saying it has a different musical vibration, that it sounds better. So, Jesus.
I know. It's like they think it's this new thing. But wow, vinyl records cost like $1 zillion now. Remember
I'm like, what? What is going on? This is so cuckoo. Well, but I think technology can be pretty cool. Like, I try to call people. I love to talk on the phone. And I know people now, they will now talk on the phone no matter what. There are people I met, I only text. I'm like, I guess you'll never talk to me on the phone. I only do emails. Some people go, no, I only do Twitter. And then finally people go on Instagram. I thought, so I have to take a picture of myself talking to you? What do I have to do here? Get your attention. I go, I don't think I'm going to get much closer than this. You don't look like you're going to be a good friend. I'm telling you now.
Right. I mean, every form of communication requires a interpretation, and talking like, we're talking or authentically in front of a person. There's nothing that beats it.
Right.
I don't, because so much is lost in a text, emotion, everything is lost.
And you just really think if the social skills of like millennials or the Generation Z or whatever they're at now I just thought, so these are the people that are going to take care of us when we're older. Here, Soylent Green, here we come. We're going to be like turned into hamburger. They're going to be like, ouch,
That's a scary thought. I hadn't thought about that, Terry.
That's the next generation of caregivers. And oh, my God.
Right.
At one point, I was going to adopt 2 Filipino girls and put them through nursing school. And I thought, they'll owe me one thing. Girls, you only have to pay me back one way. Be nurses and take care of me. You just don't. That is a different generation. I thought, I hope they're learning compassion. I hope they're learning. We come from a generation of human touch and shaking hands and hugging and talking to each other. And I'm like, oh wow, I don't know about the rest of it. But so I hope that will turn out really well for us all.
Well, it's just another reason to stay healthy.
Yes. Oh, yes, Linda. Don't even fall down. They'll trample you. They'll drag you off if you don't one misstep and you're gone. It's true, and it's funny. I was in the South, and in the South, Linda, people there's cemeteries on every corner. You just pass it all the time. In L.A., people said, so when people die, what happens? I go, I don't really know. I don't really see a place. I know where the stars go. I know where Marilyn is. That.
That's a great point. It's like you become irrelevant, out of sight, out of mind, kind of thing. Oh my gosh! Even in death, it's so cruel out there.
I could go, well, so was anyone going to drive over and visit your grave? I don't think so. It's 40 minutes to visit that grave and put a flower on it.
Oh, gosh. Well, Terry, as we close here, what advice would you give to someone just starting out as a writer or a performer in television, what great wisdom would you give them?
Well, my great wisdom, if you're starting out as a performer, I would say get in a group, sketch group, an improv group, just to learn the techniques and all the tricks that are necessary to make a good act, make a good actor, interest people, hold an audience's attention. Because anything you learn as an actor will help you later on if you switch to writing, because a lot of groups you have to write the material and do it. It gives you a better inside look of what it means to write for somebody, and you easily it'll make a better writer of you, and you'll easily switch over. Not easily, it's still with a lot of work. I would say for writers, a schedule and write every day, because there are a million things to do. When you're a writer, you can go like, oh, I forgot, is that a spot on that window? That Windex. I was meaning to spray that and get to that. Oh, I'm going to need a ladder. Look at that pane of glass up there. Any reason not to write. It can be the greatest novel of all. And even all great writers will tell you, procrastination. It's like the worst thing. You have to sit there, even if nothing comes the first half hour, just rewrite what you wrote the day before to get the juices going, and then you just do it. But if you don't put the time aside, because I met so many people on my book tour saying, I love to write. I have these stories and I'd love to write a book. I go, well, you have to set a schedule and work on it. If 3 hours in the morning, get up, work from, 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock before you go. You've got to put the time in. So that's important for any writer. And I think also to use the technology we have now is do little things of yourself, characters, put yourself on tape, on the phone, on it. So get on the internet at doing something funny. Who knows? You could be the next internet sensation,
Right. Absolutely great advice, Terry. Oh my gosh. This has been so much fun. And I just love your book. I highly recommend it to everyone listening. Do not walk to your favorite bookseller to get a copy. And it's also available online. And I will have more information about the great Terry Sweeney, along with video clips of his SNL and Seinfeld performances on my website, which is bookingauthorsinc.com. Terry, it's been such a treat. Let's do this again soon.
Would love to. All right, my next project. Yes, let's do it. I'll come visit you.
Oh, that would be even better. Thank you so much, Terry.
Thank you, Linda.
You've been listening to Literary Latte with Linda Bouchard. For more information, visit bookingauthorsinc.com.